Hello everyone and welcome to the Winner's Circle. Today we have a special guest with us, Nikki Cuthbertson, and I'm hoping that Nikki, our talk together will help my students and Nikki's students and anyone who has the opportunity to listen to us to understand more about the animal-human relationship. Nikki and I have known each other for, I don't know,
long time.
Dane, her middle son, was in second grade, I think. So,
Yeah.
And he just graduated from high school, so 16 years probably. That's incredible to think about.
Truly.
And Nikki's work is primarily as an animal communicator. Can you tell us a little bit about your work, Nikki?
Yeah, sure. My work is about really communication, which is a two-way street. It's both the aspect of listening as well as sending information to animals. And I think the biggest trial with that is to be able to listen without an agenda. And so I should backtrack it a little bit and say that the animal communication aspect is a way of communicating with animals telepathically. So it's not necessarily taking in the language of words. It's through the language of energy. So when you're in relationship to an animal, like right now I've got Biscuit with me, I have the benefit of using all of my senses, my sense of touch, my ability to witness his behavioral interaction with me and be able to read that. But the telepathic realm is more of using your internal compass, your internal sense of self, and reading and translating energy.
Uh-huh. How did you come to this? How did you come to discover that you have this gift or this knowledge and applicable gift?
Well, that's a good question. It's really just a form of heightened intuition, and I think that we all have the gift. I think I've always been intuitive, and then I just decided to more consciously develop the gift when I left my 20-year practice as a nurse. I was really burnt out and started studying aspects of healing and energy medicine, and animals read the world of energy at all times, and I realize it's our most kind of natural state. Like people that are even listening to this, they're listening to your and my words, they're watching our physical gestures, but underneath it they have a radar that they're tuning into our energy, and they're reading, like, is she full of it? Is she somebody that has credibility? But you know that not by my gestures and my words. It's a feeling sense that we all have, and the feeling projects energy into the world.
So you began, you were, as I recall, an emergency room nurse. ICU nurse, okay, intensive care. And then you decided that you were exhausted and had to stop, and you started studying. I feel like I remember some wonderful story you told me about your late horse Nelson helping you to know you had this gift, or that this gift exists.
Yes.
Can you tell that story?
Sure. My mother-in-law's dog was getting ready to transition, and she was very, very kind of linear in her thinking, and so I was really surprised when she hired an animal communicator to help her with the process of helping her come to make decisions about her dog's passing. And I went and I watched, and I was completely astounded by this interaction between this dog and this woman. And at the end, I was so excited. I just kept saying, can you do this with my horse? And she said, sure. I told her, I assured her, I don't live very far. I'm like 10 minutes away. You could come. She goes, oh, I don't have to go. And I was like, what? You don't have to be with the animal? And so I was kind of really blown away by the whole thing. And I did this really beautiful interaction, facilitated through Mary Borey. And
this is the name of this person?
Mm-hmm.
Mary
Bori.
Bori, okay.
And Mary let me know that Nelson had been that was my horse, very patiently waiting for me to learn animal communication. Wow. And that he'd been wanting to teach me that. So we had this wonderful interaction, and I went home, and this old man horse, he was probably 25 at the time.
You need to describe how he lived in your yard.
He lived in my backyard, and after I would feed him in the morning, he lived with his head in my dining room and kitchen. And it was the sweetest thing. It was like Christmas every day to that little white face in the window, and he knew how to open up the sliding glass door. But when I came home, this old man was doing helicopters. And so he was jumping at the gate, spinning and doing actual helicopters. And I just kept thinking, like, was this thing with Mary real? Did I make it up? The whole drive home, I was thinking it was so sweet to connect with them, and it was so heartfelt. But I didn't know if it was something that I just wanted to hear and feel, you know? And but when I got home and he was doing that, and this is an old horse, he had not been doing that at all. I was so flabbergasted, and it kind of blew my circuits a little bit, you know, like it just kind of was like the birth of opening to another reality, another possibility. And I just had to be with that. And actually we were living in Sebastopol, and Danny, my son, was, in I don't know what grade he was, but we had to drive back down to Cherry Valley and the next day. And so I had just moved up to Sebastopol. My sisters had unpacked all my my boxes and just put it in a room with all my bookcases. And I heard this voice that now I recognize. It was the voice of my my horse saying that I had this book on animal communication. I had no memory of buying this book. I don't know how it ended up on my shelf. And so even though I was running late to take him to school, I went running in the house and rifling through this thing that I didn't know how my sisters arranged the books. I was just happy to get them out of boxes. And I found the book, and the next voice I heard was that I was going to have time that afternoon to read it, and I would get a babysitter for my youngest son. So while I was driving, I called a babysitter, and she was available, and I sat there with this book, and I just read it cover to cover. Wow. And when I got home, I called the person who wrote the book, Marta Williams, and I asked her if she had any workshops. And it was Tuesday, and she had an opening Saturday for a workshop. Wow. And so I took her workshop, and that was the beginning of it.
Wow, what a great story. So a passing dog and an aged horse were your conduits.
Yeah.
Wow. And do you think that there was something going on in your life that helped you to hear this? Like maybe there had been other times where this information wasn't just like suddenly becoming available. It was always available.
Yeah, I think it is for all of us. I think I had been going through progressive openings since I had been a nurse. ICU was intense. It was really stressful. There's something in hindsight, I think, about the intensity of ICU in that what I loved about it is that I think when people are about to die and people are with their loved ones that are dying, that there's a way that everybody stops all the crap with each other, and life becomes poignant, people become authentic. And in that realness, I always noticed this huge healing, whether the person was going to pass or not. And in that moment, it just feels so timeless, like there's this eternal nowness to when somebody is dying, and people become real. They become forgiving for whatever the person's shortcomings are, or they can harbor their resentments, but whatever it is, they make a choice to become real in that moment. And that realness is where these guys live. And so it was such a natural progression.
So you've been visiting this opening in a way regularly with your professional work for 20 years.
Yeah, I don't think it really started, I don't think I became conscious of it until maybe the last few years. I think actually birthing my children. because I think there's something that happens to us as women, we soften when we have our children.
But regardless of, I mean, I think that's really beautiful, but regardless of being aware of the fact that you were experiencing these openings, do you think that people experience these throughout life, like even, of course, children and growing up, and maybe challenges? I mean, are you saying that when we experience challenges, whether they're physical or emotional, we may have that opening and we experience it?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So since we're working, part of this talk is oriented towards helping equestrian athletes deepen their connection to their horses and understand the principles behind animal communication. And some of the people that work with me are young and some are grown up. Some have had children and have had that experience of that softening, as you called it. But can you help some of our listeners and viewers understand ideas of what this opening might be, and then we can talk about the theories as well.
Sure. I think what you were had been mentioning was, as a question, was, are the challenges a way to access our intuition? And I think it is, yes. And so a lot of your athletes challenge themselves consciously through engaging in their sport, and their competition. So any challenge is really a portal or a gateway to access and be here now. And when you're here now, you can connect and hear the voice of your animal while you're in partnership with them, to hear your own higher self and work with this really synergistic energy towards a common goal.
So when a person is experiencing stress and heightened focus, that's a portal, that's an opening to one's intuition.
It's a choice, because you can go with the adrenaline and allow it to cloud your mind, and because your heart's racing maybe a little faster, and that creates a certain turbulence and in your energy field. And so working with it consciously to get the heart rate to slow down, be in that zone with working with your mind in a focused way is it's, so I guess what I'm trying to say is that it's a choice. You can go either way with it, like anything in life.
Right.
Make it be good stress, bad stress.
So pain, stress, heightened experience, extreme happiness, extreme sadness can all be these openings. Lead to these openings, or lead to a deeper closure, I suppose.
Right. It's how you perceive the relationship to it, and then that's where your power is. You can change your relationship to it.
Wow. So can you talk to us a little bit about the basics? Like if you've never animal communicated in your life and you've never experienced an animal communicator communicating or talked to them, what are the first steps for developing that heightened and deepened connection with a horse or a dog or any animal? And can you talk also about how they may be different?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I have so many thoughts going at the same time. I think the first and foremost one is really becoming present for yourself, and you're just knowing that you're a conduit for this relationship, for this energy. And so being a really clear channel is important. So for me, that includes having a meditation practice and regularly spending time in nature. I believe that nature, because it's such a strong energy field, it attunes you in a bigger way to all that is. So basking in that regularly would be a really a good way to center yourself. So when you're centered, you're able to hear the animal's thoughts better. The second step, I would say, is just holding a powerful intention that it's easy for yourself to hear the animals. I think a lot of it is we go into second guessing ourselves and doubting that this gift or this kind of telepathic sixth sense way of communicating is perhaps not real. So when you can really ground yourself in the intention that you're going to be able to hear your horse's thoughts or your dog's thoughts, the universe will really support that that communication at that level. Okay, and so then the next part would be to, as you're getting quiet, to just visualize your animal. And I think it's probably pretty easy for most people to visualize them and have it invoke a feeling of love. You know, I think most people really, really love their animals. And so that feeling of love becomes a gateway or a conduit for a deeper connection with them that's based on your intuition. When you're feeling very actively that feeling of love, which means there's this bridge between your heart and theirs that has been established, you can go ahead and let your animal know whatever questions you have. And to me, it's like dropping a question in their energy field. So you might just ask them, did that legend injection help your hind end? And then you just sit with not knowing and allowing information to come back to you. So you maintain a feeling of being very spacious and porous and very aware of what your own energy field feels like. And then before you know it, you might just instantly get a feeling of relief in your body. You might get a feeling of actually heightened pain. You might get a feeling of any number of things that your horse might be feeling. They may change the subject and it may not have anything to do, but they realize that now they can talk to you. And so staying really open to ways they communicate, which is through vivid imagery, through their emotional state, through whatever kinesthetic sense they're having in their body, but also this sense of knowingness that kind of lives in their gut. They have that, we have that. So I just pay attention to all of those feedback.
Can you slow down a little bit here and talk about, you said you drop a question in their energy field. Do you drop that question in the energy field as as words, or do you give them, like I usually try to picture say the hind end and the legend injection and the sensation of getting it, and so how do you do that?
I break it down into a multi-sensory kind of experience. So in revisiting the legend injection, I might send the feeling of pain in their hind end and let them know that I'm aware that they're having this pain. Then I'm going to send them a picture of maybe their vet coming with the shot. I might send them the feeling sensation in my mind's eye of a prick or the shot in their hind end, and then just say to them, is there a feeling of relief? And to me, that would be a feeling of kind of erasing the pain and the tightness or the tenderness back there, and then listen for a yes or a no.
And do you listen with your narrative mind, with words? You wait for words, or do you listen with your body, or both, or all of your senses?
It's a really good question. It's going to be a little bit of all of that. For me, if I were to choose one way, I feel like I listen with my heart. If I get into the narrative and into the mind, I feel like I start getting into my linear mind. I allow that to kind of kick in when I'm done with the communication. But it's very true that some animals will have the ability to, or I shouldn't say it's animals, it's that you're going to be more, when a person might be more word oriented, and so clairaudient would be the word that I'm searching for. So when you're clairaudient, you are going to hear messages. If you're clairvoyant, you're going to see imagery. If you're clairsentient, you're going to feel kinesthetic sensation through your body. So just like you're more right or left hand dominant, you're going to have one of those sensories be more dominant than the other.
So is it one of the things that we've been working on in the Winner Circle is learning about our learning styles, learning about our sensory styles, learning about the natural laws. So it sounds to me like becoming very clear on how our senses inform us, and getting to know which of these voyancies is dominant for us.
and what is dominant for your horse.
Right. So
Because
how do
they
you do that?
change. Well, I've been in readings where I'm sending imagery and I'm not really getting an answer. And so then I just change the channel. I'll send sensations in the physical body. I go like this, like this. And if I get more of a communication, I know I'm on the right path with this horse. And if not, I'll change it to something else, more emotions.
Do horses change? Because I imagine that their senses are much more heightened than ours, since their analytic brain is not very developed. So do they change from sense to sense, or do they typically have one? So once you develop a communication with a horse, you kind of know, oh, this is a horse who thinks in pictures.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so they have a dominance.
They have a dominance.
I see. Okay.
And I can tell you most of them are through either their emotional state or through imagery or both.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So those are the two to try the most and to practice with, probably, yourself. And how do you know when you're making it up and when you're actually receiving information from the animal?
Well, so there's two ways. I guess if you're doing it for somebody else's animal, which is a really good way to practice, just practice on people's animals that you don't know, and then you'd actually ask the person for validation.
I see.
And the other thing is that to some degree we are making it up, and I think that our imagination is the portal to these other dimensions and these other realms, and it's the portal to our creativity.
It's our strongest tool, really.
It is. And so when you're in that place of your imagination, you're in a place of really kind of allowing this full sensory interaction with the universe.
So do you suggest exercises for Nubians to begin to engage their imagination in these ways?
You want all the attention. I know. A good exercise would be just to sit and journal or do free associating writing. Okay, so I would say that, say you have a question. Does Biscuit like his food that he's eating right now? And you would write that on a piece of paper. And then you would write whatever comes to your mind. And even if you don't get anything, like you're just staring at this blank piece of paper, you just keep writing for like 3 minutes, and you give yourself permission to not stop. So if you don't get the answer, you might say, I don't know, but you keep your hand writing, so you're staying out of your head, and all of a sudden you might just get a picture of their bowl and maybe a flash of their favorite little snack or their favorite food, and then you just write that down, and then you continue.
Wow. So that's a way of allowing your kind of intuitive sensory mind to come through an analytic channel, which is writing.
It is, but writing is connected to your heart.
Right.
And so the hands are extension of your heart chakra, your heart center. So there's a real connection there that's very real.
That makes really good sense.
Yeah.
So when you're riding a horse, can you talk about how animal communication is different, or talk about that, please?
Okay. I think that first of all, practicing with your animal when you're not on their back and doing groundwork is really important. I think that since this talk is very specific for horses, I think understanding that horses are really here as amazing teachers about teaching us about freedom and about moving forward with grace and with power, and at the same time they're prey animals, and so they tend to be a little bit skittish in that way, and yet there's a way that they can really teach us to be in partnership with one another and not having one being impose or dominate the relationship. And so I think that there's this amazing way that they teach us about synergy and spaciousness in the way we love them and allow the love to come back. And when we don't place, say, an agenda on them and we're on the ground, all of this feedback that we've been talking about through all of our senses becomes a way that we can access what's on their mind. And then we get, say, on their back. We've been practicing. And it's exactly the same, only now you're moving, and so you're concentrating in a different way, right? You're not just staying in your heart, and especially if you're in a competition, you're in a more mental place. But I think as you're moving with them, if you've established that place of partnership and the intersection where you two are one, you stay in that place where you're moving as a single entity and move towards this common goal. It becomes hard if, say, the horse isn't into it and we're asking them to do this competition and they're not, and so then they manifest these injuries or you know. But in that world, I've seen plenty of horses that are loving doing the jumps, you know, and so having a partner in a human that gives them their full the full trust that they know their job and gives them their the freedom of their body to get the job done, and at the same time helps direct and guide through, again, imagery and sensation, and also sometimes reassuring that the rider is safe. You know, they take a lot of pride in not dropping their rider.
Right. Interesting. So when I work with equestrian athletes, I suggest that they show a visual picture, a mental picture of what they intend to do ahead of time to their horse. And I also suggest that they do something called get inside the stride, so that there is a sensation of all of the horse's body parts and the human body parts moving as one, rather than the separate. The riders are mostly aware of their own selves, and I'm suggesting that the riders connect more with the horse's body, and then at the same time stay intuitive enough to show pictures of, this is what I want in this stride and in this stride and in this stride, and it helps the riders to stay present, and it helps the horses to feel the connection, therefore continuing executing what is intended. So it's not jump focused, it's not necessarily skill focused, it's an intuitive connection with both bodies. Can you talk a little bit about how that could be improved upon with your philosophy?
Yeah, what I hear you saying is that you're becoming very present with every stride, and I think that it's easy once you've given I don't know if you want to call it a command or just a guidance, a leg aid, a hand aid, rein aid, to then disengage a little bit. You gave it, you let go of the idea of it, but staying really present and with follow-up with the imagery and your physical aids as the backup if they're not getting it. But so for me, the physical aids are backup, and sometimes when the horses are so used to just the physical aids, then it becomes that the intuitive piece is the backup. And so understanding that maybe that prior riders haven't trained up the animal, maybe you haven't worked with the animal at that level, that there's going to be a learning curve for them as well, getting to pay attention to these other aids that are more etheric.
Interesting.
The other thing I have, I don't mean to interrupt you.
No, please.
When you talk about riding every stride and having awareness of your physical body and having an awareness of the horse's body, for me, and I know this isn't going to be like that for every person because it is so esoteric, but when I ride, there's almost between my center and a little bit lower, I will see this orange ball.
Wow.
And when I see that orange ball, I know that we're connected. And so I wait for that in my warm-up before I start asking more of the horse.
So you have an orange ball, but each person will probably have some sensation or visual that is the cue that we are now connected.
That's right.
And since horses are repetitive animals, knowing that once you've established that, you can go back to that. That seems like a beautiful sort of starting point.
Yes.
Starting a goal for the starting point. Oh, that's really helpful. I wanted to ask about I work a lot with trainers, and there are many times when I'm on the rail with a trainer and I'll say, your rider seems tentative, communicate with the horse. Tell the horse which distance to go to. Tell the horse, remind him how to use the corner. Tell him when to switch his lead. All of these kinds of things. And I'm wondering, can you speak to that? I mean, we think it might work, but
Oh, I think it works. I've actually worked with both trainers and people that are in a lesson, and maybe the horse isn't fully understanding the aids, or what the rider's trying to communicate, or what the trainer's trying to tell the rider to do. Mm-hmm. And when I'm telepathing them, and I might send the feeling of, say, a softening in their body, or a softening in their mind because they're trying so hard. And
too hard, perhaps.
Too hard.
Mm-hmm.
And that softening actually allows the action to take place.
Interesting.
And
it's like an opening.
It is. Mm-hmm. It is. So yeah. I think that the animals do get it, but if I think as the rider, you're asking them something that maybe is a little bit challenging for them, and you're really focused, they'll follow your cue if you're tend to be in a hard focus or a soft focus. Mm-hmm. So if you can practice awareness of your breath while you're asking them to be challenged, mm-hmm. they'll take your cue with that. And I think you can do that whether you're observing and on the rail and feeling connected. The feeling is, the question is, do you feel connected to them while they're riding? And a lot of times, I know that you are when you're on the rail observing. And so the animal will take that energy in.
So would it be correct to say to really work with the trainers to engage with their breath?
Yeah.
Because I'm talking to the trainer strictly visually. I'm really not helping them become more embodied. Mm-hmm. And in those busy horse show days, I imagine they get a bit out of their body.
Yeah.
So and the athletes as well. Do you think the horses get out of their body ever?
I think they feel stressed.
Mm-hmm.
I do. I think sometimes they get, even though they may do a good job of it, but trailering and hauling long distances, being in different, stalls, all of that, mm-hmm. being around different horses, energy is energy. So especially in a competition, they have to literally through their bodies metabolize
all the stress,
all the energy.
So how do they do that?
I think the same way that we do. They either brace or they relax into it, mm-hmm. and they have their different coping styles. Some of them might eat through it, mm-hmm. and just like us.
Some of them don't eat. Some of them have digestive issues. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So and do you think that horses tend to mirror, or riders tend to mirror the horse's ways of dealing with stress?
I do, and I think that a lot of times that's why the person is drawn to the horse. There's a like-minded synergy or vibration that we recognize, and we're drawn to the like-minded.
And a way of digesting that's either similar or maybe balancing. Maybe if the horse eats a lot and the rider doesn't eat a lot, there's some sort of great fuel that comes from that.
Absolutely.
So that's a really interesting thing for the riders to be thinking about with the mounts. And professionals who get on multiple horses throughout the course of any one day also can be aware of this, because you might have unconscious cues that are happening in your body. Like you might get extremely hungry after riding one horse and have appetite suppression or emotionality or shortness of breath or whatever may happen that is really about that union, not so much about you as an individual or the horse as an individual. Mm-hmm. I think that's a really beautiful, heightened way of thinking about it that I haven't gotten to yet. So for equestrian athletes who are competing, what would the top things be for them to focus on to begin to develop an animal communication in competition and in the competitive? When you get to a horse show, there's a lot of energy, as you said. Mm-hmm. So could you give us some direction about how you would encourage people to, maybe we could say at home a practice and at a horse show a practice?
Oh, that's a really good idea. I think at home, or so when you're not in a competition, I would be mindful to just have whatever your practice is to center yourself. And I would commit to that. I think you're in a competition. It gets so easy, especially since a lot of people that are drawn to horses are very empathic. And so they pick up on everybody's emotions, including the horses. So having a practice that really centers yourself. I'm really big into meditation, but I don't want to sound preachy about it. But for me, that's my go-to.
You and me both, girlfriend. Yep.
And
but a practice,
yeah.
Some sort of being present practice seems really essential to this, right? As an underlying.
Do you want me to take you through a quick meditation?
That would be great, yes.
Okay. So going through a meditation practice that is very specific for increasing your own self-awareness so that you clear yourself as a channel is what I'm trying to do with this one. So go ahead and sit comfortable, and you can sit cross-legged, you can sit with your feet on the ground, and I'm going to close my eyes because that's my Pavlov's dog place that I go to. And as you close your eyes, just begin to move into your breath. And as you exhale, just let go of any agenda of doing this correctly. Begin to exhale any stress or any holding that you have in your muscles. And now just mentally, as you are being with the breath, just scan your body. Start at your head and just be mindful of your thoughts. If there's a way that your scalp might be tight, or is your eyebrows furrowed, and you're consciously trying to relax the whole of you. Even imagine relaxing the back of your head. Relax the muscles on your face. As you exhale, relax your tongue. It's amazing how much tension we hold in our jaw, especially when we're focused. Imagine relaxing through your teeth and your gum line. Really let go in the gum line. And now just imagining relaxing the soft palate of your mouth. When your mouth and when your jaw is relaxed, your hips will be relaxed. So if while you're riding you can get your mouth to relax, you'll be able to connect more fully with your horse while it's moving. Relax through your neck. As you exhale, let the shoulder blades come down your backside. And with your in-breath, lift up through your sternum. Here we're going to take 3 breaths, just breathing into this heart space, shoulder blades down. And imagine that your collarbones widen. Just breathe into this spaciousness. Imagine letting your diaphragm relax. That muscle gets really tight sometimes, and it does so on horses as well. So just imagine as you're taking your in-breath that the diaphragm actually softens and allows this life force energy to come down through the diaphragm into all your internal organs. So your upper belly softens, your lower belly, your back, even your kidneys. Just imagine that your torso is like a tube. You're not dominant in the front or the back, but all of you, even the side body. Breathing into your bladder area. Imagine any tension through your hips, your sacral area, just leaves you with every out breath. Imagine that your legs begin to soften, releasing any tension. And imagine that in your groin, really deep in your psoas. On the outer lateral aspects of your legs where your IT band is. Allow your knees to relax and all the ligaments that surround it. And then just bringing your awareness into your ankles. Release any tension there. And then just coming into the soles of your feet. You might just imagine that through the soles of your feet, you're sending up down 2 cords or 2 beams of light that go deep into the center of the earth. And imagine as you connect with the center of the earth that there's infinite support for your journey, for your intentions this lifetime, and that you open to receiving a stabilizing quality to your energy field. So just the way you would connect with a horse here, you're also connecting with with the earth, as a living entity. So you're sending energy to the earth, and then you're receiving as well. Just holding an intention that you release what no longer serves you in terms of your thoughts, your patterns. And then just gently coming into your heart space. By coming into your heart space, I mean place your attention there. And just breathe. Just allowing the feeling of love to permeate all your cells, your bones, your muscles, your thoughts, your energy body. And from here you can just gently begin to become more aware of your breath. Become aware of your physical body. Whenever you're ready, you can go ahead and open your eyes.
Wow, what a beautiful practice, Nikki.
Well, it's from this place that if you wanted to now, you could go into your journal exercise and connect with your horse.
I see.
You've cleared the channel.
Right. So you have taught us to clear our channel and to explore what's there, what's in the energy field between ourselves and the natural world. And I know from working with you over the years and reading your blogs and your videos, seeing your videos, that you not only connect with horses and dogs and cats, but of recent a tortoise, a kitten. I've heard you have connections with birds, and plants. So, there's a progression for you, because I guess the less developed of a consciousness the being or entity has.
I guess through doing this work, it's just made me realizing that all of life is sentient, you know, and by sentient I mean that there's feelings, there's energy to it, and we were born with the ability to translate that energy and apply meaning through giving it language and words.
So we, with the analytic ones, are well served to disconnect from our analytic minds and connect to connectivity, intuition, energy fields.
And when I say that, I don't mean to discount the left side of the brain. I feel like it's important for us to have that filter. And some of that, it's well served in conjunction with your intuition, in that it can help you to really give clarity to your messaging when you're working with the horses.
Right. So since we have analytic brains, it's not like we're trying to discount them. In fact, we're trying to illuminate them with our intuition. Yeah.
The yoga of both are right and left.
Yes. The yoga of being. Wow. I could go on and ask you so many questions, but I feel like we've given our watchers and listeners enough information for their first journey into the Carrie and Nikki conversation. But I'd like to ask if you could offer any closing thoughts to the equestrian athletes, specifically about the relationship with horses, their relationship with horses, and ways perhaps to deepen or grow those relationships.
It's a good question. You guys are working at such a high level of performance, you know, in a way that I never have done, but I would imagine I would just apply the same principles. And at a certain point, I think when you're working and really communicating through more than your aids, what comes up, and I know it sounds so etheric, and it might leave your client base feeling unsatisfied, but there's this feeling of surrendering into the partnership. And I think that there's a way, when of course we're in competition, there's a way that we're directing, and you've got to make it over X amount of jumps, and it's being timed. And I think that you should know that you have the ability to create your own reality, even if you're within a certain time frame, and that within that time frame you can have whatever experience you want to have with your horse, and so that you surrender to that and you show up for that.
Right.
Even though the outer world, what's outside, may pull on you in a way, because our ego gets involved in that piece, and I don't mean it in a negative way. It's just an inherent part of who we are.
Well, the ego is the part of us that is goal-oriented, and it's helpful, but you're saying allow the relationship to become centric to the reality that you're creating.
Yes. And then show up for it and do your best, and then let it go.
I love it. That's so helpful, because I work so much with all athletes to disconnect from ego when you're in the throes of performance, because the ego prevents you from connecting to the moment and being present with that moment. And in the case of an equestrian, being present with the connection, which is what, if there's a connection, all kinds of things can happen. If there's not a connection, it's pretty flat, and a lot of things are missed and don't happen. And so do you if a anybody who's watching this or who has had contact, you do readings, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so people can contact you for readings, and you don't have to be there, we've learned.
Yeah.
But you prefer.
I do, but I do with people actually all over the world, and so just having a photo helps me.
Mm-hmm. Great. So Nikki can be reached at nikkicuthbertson.com, and have a reading with Nikki. Learn from this woman. This woman has taught me so much about who I am through animals and through nature, probably more than any other person on the planet. So thank you so much for being here with us today. And
thank you for having
thank
me.
you for this. And I hope that we have more, because there's so much more to talk about. Nikki talks to animals who've crossed over and humans.
Mm-hmm.
Nikki has so many more gifts to share than what we've explored today. So thanks again, Nikki.
Thank you, Carrie.